Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Your Name Here podcast. My name is Eddie, and I am doing my first show. Today, we're going to be talking about identity politics. I'm curious about identity politics because it seems both divisive and also useful for certain groups. I have some quotes here. I'll just get right into it. So, from the article White Identity Politics Aren't Going Anywhere by Thomas B. Edsall. This is a quote, so-called Southern strategy built on racism and overlaid with opposition to immigration. So that seems to be an indictment of white identity politics. I think Sam Harris, who's a neuroscientist and a writer and a public intellectual, said that of all the forms of identity politics, he detests white identity politics the most. Now, he is a very smart man, but I think that white identity politics is a response, a repudiation of black and brown identity politics, you know? Like, Hillary Clinton, for example, played identity politics, and I think that's one of the main reasons why she lost, because she looked at the Democrats have been looking at white working class people and saying, well, fuck off, your problems aren't real. You're not a real person, you don't have the struggles that black and brown people do. And that's true to an extent, I'll talk about white privilege maybe in a couple of episodes, about the realities, or whether it's a reality or a myth. Because here's the thing about this podcast. I am trying to clarify my own thoughts. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think one of the best ways to clarify your own thoughts is to talk about things. But back to politics. So the Democrats looked at white people and they said, we don't want your votes. We're fine without them. Which is stupid, because white people make up, I think it's like 73% of this country. And you can't ignore them. You have to speak to them because they are the, you can't win with black and brown people alone. So, white people are useful, I guess, would be the term. What would you say? White votes maybe as a collective way more than non-white votes because they're the majority. And I don't, if I come across as racist, that's not my intention. I just think that it's, what would you say? It's useful to think about identity politics because it's a major part of our political process at this point. And I'll give you another quote. So, these threats, this is from White Identity Politics Aren't Going Anywhere by Thomas Edsall, again. These threats, both real and perceived, have, as I will demonstrate, brought to the fore for many whites a sense of community, commonality, attachment, and solidarity with their racial group. They have led a sizable proportion of whites to believe that their racial group and the benefits that group enjoys are endangered, end quote. So, first, the idea that white people have a sense of commonality. I don't know. My white identity is not that important to me. What if I were to become black overnight? It's not, it would be jarring, but would I have less attachment to members of my race? I don't have any attachment to members of my race. I have attachment to members of my family and I have attachment to my friends, but I don't think about my race ever. And I actually read a book that described how white privilege is that white people don't ever have to think about race. They don't ever have to think about race because no one is pointing out to them. They're never the other. There is always another white person in the room, but there might not always be another black person or another Asian person in the room. So this book, which is called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I don't know. She's probably not Italian. But she said that because we white people, she's white. And I think that I would say that she wrote a rather self-hating book. We white people never have to think about race. And that's one of the reasons why we are white privileged. So, I don't know. The sense of commonality it doesn't make any sense to me because I don't identify with my racial group. I think it's actually the opposite. I think African Americans, I hate that term. That's a fucking stupid term because you don't know if they're from Africa. They could be from Jamaica. They could be from the BVIs. They could be from Canada. So, anyway, I would say that group suffering creates solidarity. And if the argument is that white people don't know what it's like to suffer, which is, I've heard that argument before. No, I haven't. I just made that up. Anyway, if the argument is rather that black and brown people suffer more than white people, and if that's true, that's tragic. But again, I'll look into it. I'll find out what the arguments are. Then if they suffer more than white people as a group, then it would seem to me that they would have a more solid sense of solidarity and commonality. Because group suffering creates a sense of identity in the suffering group. That's why